Hey again, CJ for Shooter here. So in one of the last videos, depending upon how you watch this playlist, I spoke about confidence, right? I was talking about the three main tenets, like the three of the main things that I teach is understanding, seeking to understand, and having that level of inquiry, right? And trust in yourself and in the process, and then having that confidence to trust the process and to trust yourself. And so in the last video, I told the story about confidence and what it is that you can do to create more confidence in your life. And so right now, I want to go into discernment, into inquiry, into seeking to understand, right? And this is something that's really important to me. Clearly, otherwise I wouldn't be talking about it in the way that I'm talking about it, right? uh, like to me, understanding is the understanding that I'm talking about. It's an understanding of the heart, right? It is an experience of knowledge. It is when knowledge turns to wisdom. It is it's those aha moments. It's those epiphanies, right? It's those moments of such clarity where you embody this thing that it's beyond an intellectual understanding. It's it's a felt experience of um, getting it, right? Glocking it, if you know that word, if you're familiar, right? To know, right? And when we when we seek to understand in this way, it leads us to ask really poignant questions, very specific questions. And when we get to the point of understanding in that way, we we level up, right? We can take that understanding and it becomes a part of who it is that we are. And it it helps to shape the lens of perception and in the way that we perceive any situation, right? And this is important because perception creates reality. You know, your focus determines your reality. Your thoughts create what you see, right? And the if you imagine like a magnifying glass or a window, whatever uh, and you're looking through this glass. This is your lens of perception, right? This is the window in which you perceive all of life's happenings. And throughout life, different things happen to us that it's like a bug splatting on the windshield, right? It leaves a little stain or like a smudge. You know, you lean your forehead against the window and you get up and there's like a little grease stain on the window, right? And over time, mud and dirt and mold and algae and just all this stuff starts to grow. Little kitty paws of mud, right? The window starts to get dirty, and that's what each experience that we have gives us an imprint on this window that we look through, that we perceive this world, right? It affects how we feel, how we think, how we navigate, how we respond to any and all situations. And when we seek to understand these little specks, these imprints, these markings on the window, then a lot of the times what happens is that they disappear, right? It's kind of like Windexing it. When we actually like look at it and go into it and understand, okay, why did this leave a print upon me? We can make it disappear so that we can see clearly now again, right? We see through the window in a clear way, which is beautiful because that means that we can respond in a way that is in line with our values. we can represent ourselves in a way in the world that we are proud about, that we're stoked about, right? We can show up in the way that we want to show up. And so in the last video, I started by saying, imagine being able to ask yourself a question, hear the answer, and trust it, right? And so that's where the discernment comes in, right? That's where the understanding comes in. And whenever we think about something, right, then there's all these voices in our head. Typically we think it's one voice. Typically we think it's just us thinking. It's actually not us thinking. It's all of these marks on the window talking to us. Right? They're all throwing in their opinion at us. And we think it is us, even though it's not. Right? The mind is really good at tricking us. And they each have a lesson to teach us. I'm just going to wait for a second. So when we seek to understand the voices, the lessons, the teachings that each one of these little imprints makes upon us, right? When we seek to understand, then you can gain clarity from a place of stillness, right? And it's that understanding that will bring you healing. And when you get the healing, that little mark on that window will disappear because you will have gotten a lesson. And then that voice that was trying to tell you something will be integrated and it will be part of you. And so that's like the long-term goal, right? That takes a lot of work to have a perfectly clean window. There's so much that happens to us, and depending upon so many things, right? We all have different. We're all at different stages in our journey of healing, of cleaning that window, right? And so discerning, seeking to understand, is asking that question and then coming back to that place of stillness and allowing the answer to come from within and not from without. Does that make sense? Like, typically, the real answer, the answer that you're seeking, the truth that you're seeking, is going to be it's going to have a different flavor of speaking, right? You might have a felt sense of it instead of like a bunch of thoughts. It might be a clear knowingness, a clear direction, right? And so I have a couple of examples of this in my own life on learning discernment, right? On learning how to listen to the right voice and not all of the marks upon the window. And the one story that I'll share now is the end of 2017. I was the director of a cannabis business, and it had been a while since I had done anything for myself, right? So I could feel my energy waning, right? And winter times in the Pacific Northwest can be wearing. Not a lot of sun, kind of wet, kind of dark, kind of cold, so on and so forth. So I was like, cool, I'm going to go somewhere. I don't know where though. And I deliberated for a long time on what to do and how to do that, and just like all the thoughts that were confusing me ultimately, right? So this one morning I woke up at, 3 o'clock, and I went to sit in front of my altar and to meditate. And I was meditating, and there was this clarity that just came in and washed over me, and I just it was different than what I had experienced, right? It wasn't thoughts. It was a feeling. It was a sense. It was a felt sense, right? And and it came from a place of stillness, right? And it said, or I don't know, said or told me, or I knew to go to the Bahamas, and so I booked a ticket to the Bahamas, um, and ended up going to the Bahamas and spending 2 weeks on a sailboat with this guy I'd never met, and having a really incredible time. Right? It was one of the best trips of my life, and it was taken pretty much on a whim, from a place of like, feeling, okay, cool, this is the truth, let's do it, trusting that, being able to hear it, trusting it, and taking action, enforcing that confidence, right? And again, kind of the same thing about when I eventually resigned as the director of that same business. It came to me through the same process. One night I woke up early in the morning and I sat down and I became still and I asked that question, how do I proceed forward? And the feeling, the sense of it was to resign and pursue my dreams, to create a lifestyle that would feed my vitality and not drain it, right? And so that's what I've been doing for the last little bit. And it's been challenging, but so rewarding, so much better, like I wake up now and I'm like, all right, cool. I get to do this thing that I'm really invested in doing, that I really care about doing, right? It's like play work versus just work. So the point being is that when we get quiet and we can tune in, we can tune out, right? We can tune in to that stillness within us, and we can tune out all of those voices, all of those lessons that are talking to us. And instead, we can seek to understand what those lessons are trying to teach us, and as we understand them, they'll disappear. So my invitation to you this time is to pick a question, pick something in your life that you want clarity on. Pick something in your life that you've been thinking a lot about, and take 20 or 30 minutes. Write down that question, right? Get really specific on the question, and sit with it and become still, right? And notice the voices that come up around that. Write the voices down and go into those voices. Explore what those voices, what those things, what those thoughts are telling you, and see what's there, right? Really go into them. And then come back to that stillness and ask the question, and repeat this process until you experience something within you that is clearly different than everything else. And you'll be like, oh, that's the one. That's the truth. That's the authenticity right there. And then write that down, and express gratitude and love and appreciation for the answer and for yourself and for the process and for doing all that, right? So, again, let me know what came up for you in this video. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know your experience. I would so love to have a conversation with you about this, and let me know how I can further support you in doing this work and getting clear for yourself. Thank you very much, and we'll catch you next time.